20 banned cartoons, 7 levels. From a dad giving birth in a kiddie pool to a beach pageant turning into a body-shaming competition. This is the ultimate iceberg of cartoon episodes that went too far and fortunately got banned. We'll start with the shallow ones first, but the deeper we go, the darker it will get. Let's start at the tip of the iceberg. Level 1. Eight-legged freakout. Peppa Pig. For anyone unfamiliar, Peppa Pig is a British preschool show that first aired in 2004. It is built around short episodes where Peppa and her family learn simple life lessons about family, friendship, and everyday fears. One of those episodes is Mr. Skinny Legs. It begins when Peppa's little brother George finds a spider in the bathroom sink. He isn't scared, he laughs and plays with it. However, Peppa reacts with fear. Like many children, she doesn't like spiders. Daddy Pig reassures her, saying spiders are very, very small and can't hurt you. At first, Peppa stays away, but she slowly warms up to it. She even invites the spider, now named Mr. Skinny Legs, to a tea party with her dolls. The story ends with a twist when Daddy Pig jumps up in fright when he sees the spider later. Turns out he was the one who needed reassuring. It's a classic Peppa Pig lesson about not letting fear control you and how sometimes things that look scary are actually harmless. But this message didn't sit well in Australia. Unlike Britain, Australia is home to several dangerous spiders, including redbacks and funnel webs, the kind that sends you to the hospital rather than join you at tea parties. And teaching children that spiders can't hurt you wasn't exactly safe. In 2012, Australia's ABC network banned the episode, saying it gave the wrong message. 5 years later, it appeared again on Nick Jr. Australia. The channel argued that Mr. Skinny Legs looked cartoonish and friendly. But after parents complained, the episode was pulled a second time. For people outside Australia, the ban was amusing. After all, it was just a cartoon spider having the time of its life. But Australian parents defended it because for them, a child trying to play with a spider in real life could end up in real danger. So yeah, those jokes we make about Australia being pretty dangerous, turns out it's pretty true. No smoking, literally. Tom and Jerry cuts. Tom and Jerry is one of the most beloved cartoons ever created. The cat and mouse duo first appeared in the 1940s, and from then on, everyone was hooked. The entire show was built around slapstick comedy and clever gags, but in a couple of moments, the creators may have crossed a line. In Texas Tom tries desperately to impress a female cat. He sings, plays the guitar, and even smokes a cigarette to look cool and mature. The singing doesn't work, nor does the smoking, but the scene stuck with the audience. In another episode, Tennis Chumps, Tom and Butch face each other in a tennis match. While Tom prepares to serve, Butch casually puffs on a cigar as if it makes him look stylish and confident. At the same time, these scenes were brushed off as exaggerated jokes, but looking back, they clearly made smoking seem fun and even appealing. By 2006, times, they had changed, and these old gags drew criticism. The UK media regulator Ofcom said the smoking scenes could send the wrong message to kids. They even enforced policies that made sure kids' shows didn't depict smoking unless there was a very good reason. Turner Broadcasting, which aired the show on Boomerang, seemed to get the point and agreed to edit or cut them. This move was also backed by health experts who pointed out research that children exposed to smoking in the media they watched were likely to try it themselves. And the decision made sense because when a Redditor shared a clip of the episode, fans shared their own stories. One viewer even admitted they once rolled up bits of paper to pretend smoke like Tom, only to get scolded by their dad. It's a funny memory now, but it shows how easily children pick up habits from what they see on screen. Which brings us to the question, how many of you have actually tried the paper rolling trick to pretend to smoke? Not that I can judge, for I was one of those kids and am an ex-smoker. Don't smoke, kids, it's dumb. Brazilian Backlash, The Simpsons. For more than 3 decades, The Simpsons has mocked politics, culture, and almost everything. But in 2002, one episode went beyond satire and caused an international uproar. It was Blame It on Lisa. The episode follows the Simpson family as they travel to Brazil. Lisa has been sponsoring a Brazilian boy named Ronaldo through a charity, but when he stops writing, she gets worried and convinces her family to help find him. Once they arrive, things spiral into chaos. Homer is kidnapped for ransom, the streets are full of crime, and Rio is portrayed with swarms of rats, pickpockets, and even violent monkeys. For the American audience, it was standard Simpsons exaggeration, but in Brazil, it struck a nerve. Officials accused the episode of spreading damaging stereotypes and making Rio seem like a lawless and filthy city. To make matters worse, the show presented the Macarena and the Conga as if they were Brazilian dances, even though neither comes from Brazil. The city's tourist board had recently invested millions in boosting Rio's global image and even considered suing Fox. Government ministries openly criticized the show, warning it could hurt tourism at a time when Brazil was trying to attract international visitors. The backlash was so strong that the episode was effectively banned in Brazil. Local channels refused to air it, and it disappeared from reruns for years. While the rest of the world could rewatch it on TV, Brazilian fans could only access it through imported DVDs or online clips. The censorship made the episode one of the few Simpson stories tied directly to a real diplomatic dispute. Outside Brazil, the controversy was widely covered by the media. Some observers argued the reaction was overblown because The Simpsons routinely roasts its own country in far worse ways. Others pointed out that this time the humor leaned less on clever parody and more on tired cliches about Latin America. Level 2. Daddy's Night Out. Not yet. Bluey. Dad Baby is one of the wildest Bluey episodes and prompted many adults to ask, was this really meant for kids? It starts when Bluey and Bingo decide that Bandit should pretend to be pregnant. At first he laughs it off, but the kids push him to do it properly. Soon he fully commits to the role, strapping Bingo to his belly and complaining about back pain, sore feet, and food cravings like a real parent-to-be. The chaos is both hilarious and a little over the top, showing just how far Bluey can push pretend play. But that's not all. The game grows bigger when neighbor Pat gets pulled in to help deliver the baby in the kiddie pool. Between cricket score updates, playful kicks, and Bandit's over-dramatic struggle, the baby is born and Bandit names it after Chili. Adults loved the episode, but kids were confused why the baby wasn't delivered by a stork, as in all the stories they had heard. Despite all the laughs, American audiences didn't get to see it at first. Disney left Dad Baby off US Disney+. The studio never really addressed the censorship, but it was clear that they were concerned about Bandit's pretend pregnancy and delivery scene being too sensitive for preschool viewers. Fans were quick to defend it, saying the humor was harmless and actually in line with Bluey's usual style. However, Disney never restored it. Thankfully, the episode was later released on Bluey's official YouTube and restored on DVDs, ensuring no one missed the quirky classic. Mr. Ratburn's Big Day, Small Airwaves. Arthur. Arthur is a long-running PBS cartoon about an aardvark teaching kids lessons about kindness, honesty, and growing up with his friends. In 2019, the show aired an episode called Mr. Ratburn and the Special Someone. It was meant to be a sweet surprise for longtime viewers with Arthur's teacher, Mr. Ratburn, getting married. But the episode sets it up like a mystery. Arthur, Buster, Muffy, and Francine overhear that Mr. Ratburn is preparing for a wedding. They immediately imagine the worst. Maybe he'll marry a mean woman who makes his class miserable. At one point, they even mistake his no-nonsense sister for the bride, panicking that their teacher's life and their classroom are about to be doomed. The kids ultimately plan to save him, but when the big moment comes, they realize they had it all wrong. Mr. Ratburn isn't marrying a mean woman or his sister. As a matter of fact, he's not even marrying a woman. He's marrying Patrick, a kind chocolatier, and the kids are thrilled. The scene is short, joyful, and filled with laughter. A teacher they admire is happy, and that's all that matters. Except not everyone agreed. When PBS released the episode nationwide, Alabama Public Television refused to air it. Instead of the season premiere, they showed a rerun. Their reasoning was that very young children also watch Arthur, and parents might not want them to see a same-gender marriage without warning. They also said they had no plans to ever show the episode. This wasn't the first time either. Back in 2005, the same network banned a Postcards from Buster episode that featured a family with two moms. The decision drew a lot of attention. Many fans online defended the episode, saying it wasn't inappropriate at all. It was just about love, respect, and acceptance, the same values Arthur has always taught. On Reddit, people pointed out that the kids weren't confused or upset. In fact, most didn't even think twice about it. Adults were the only ones making it controversial. The ban only made the episode even more famous. Supporters nicknamed it the Gray Rat Wedding, and it spread quickly across social media. Instead of being forgotten, the story of Mr. Ratburn's wedding turned into a powerful reminder that kindness and love are never too grown up for kids to understand. And if you like seeing your favorite cartoons' twisted sides, or in this case, heartwarming sides, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more forbidden controversies. Moving on. Level 3. The Gnome That Didn't Air. Powerpuff Girls. Ever wonder what happens when the Powerpuff Girls take a break from crime fighting and step into a rock concert? You get the wild ride of See Me, Feel Me, Know Me. The Powerpuff Girls is about 3 pint-sized superheroes saving Townsville, while also dealing with the mayor's tantrums and their own life problems. However, in this episode, the girls grow tired of always being the city's saviors and long for a world without villains. A magical gnome answers their wish and offers to remove all evil, but at a steep cost of their superpowers. At first, the idea of a peaceful Townsville seems perfect until the girls discover the gnome's true intentions. Using their brains and teamwork, they defeat the gnome and restore balance to the city. The episode stands out for its rock opera style, where songs carry the story forward and add a surreal theatrical vibe. Despite the creativity, the episode faced hurdles. Some broadcasters felt that certain visuals, like growing crosses and the gnome's almost divine demeanor, might appear as religious messaging in a children's show. As a result, US networks pulled it before it could air. This ban gave the episode a legendary status among fans, turning it into a lost chapter in the series. When the episode finally became available on DVD and Netflix, viewers were struck by its bold style. Some found it odd, but many praised its music, visuals, and creative storytelling. Far from a throwaway experiment, See Me, Feel Me, Know Me has become a cult favorite. It proves that sometimes even a kid's cartoon can take creative risks and leave behind a story that fans never forget. Boondocks Pause. The Boondocks. What happens when a simple audition turns into one of the most talked about episodes in cartoon history? The Boondocks shows us with Pause. The show follows the Freeman family, offering clever social commentary wrapped up in comedy. Grandad auditions for a play by Winston Jerome, a character parodying Tyler Perry. But the play is far from ordinary. It's full of over-the-top, quirky, and unexpected moments that lead to hilarious and awkward situations. Robert finds himself caught up in Jerome's world, where he is pushed to act in a very bizarre way on stage. The episode uses humor to gently poke fun at certain entertainment trends while exploring ideas about identity and artistic choices. Pause became controversial because of its parody of Tyler Perry. Complaints reportedly reached network executives, and the episode was pulled from reruns for almost a decade. Reportedly, the removal was solely because Tyler Perry himself was mad, and rumor has it that he might have also been the reason Boondocks was canceled later. There were even claims that Tyler was planning on suing the creators, but they were never confirmed. Fans had to wait until 2020 for it to reappear during an Adult Swim marathon of previously banned episodes. As with any controversy, viewers were split. One group praised the episode's sharp humor and bold satire and called it the cleverest of the series. Others thought it pushed boundaries a little too far, but despite all the debates, Pause remains one of the Boondocks' most memorable episodes, showing how animation can entertain while also raising questions about society, art, and identity. Celestial Strum, Simpsons China Redline. For The Simpsons, no country is off limits. First, they offended Brazil, years later, China became the target, and the joke didn't land well. One Angry Lisa, again a Lisa episode behind the controversy, from season 34, follows Marge as she discovers the world of virtual fitness. She buys a Peloton-style exercise bike with an instructor named Jesse, who charms her with compliments and encouragement. Meanwhile, Homer becomes jealous of the attention Marge is giving the virtual trainer, and this creates tension in their marriage. On the surface, it's a playful episode about modern technology, jealousy, and relationships. But the real controversy came from a throwaway joke. During a scene, the instructor takes riders on a virtual tour of China and says, "Behold the wonders of China, Bitcoin mines, forced labor camps where children make smartphones."
Behold the wonders of China, Bitcoin mines, forced labor camps.
That single line was enough for the episode to be censored in Hong Kong. When the episode premiered on Disney Plus on October 2022, it streamed normally in most regions. However, by February 2023, viewers in Hong Kong discovered it had quietly disappeared from the platform. This was because of Hong Kong's strict censorship rules under China's control. Since the imposition of the 2020 national security law, authorities have been highly sensitive to media that could be seen as criticizing China. Forced labor, particularly allegations of Uyghur labor in Xinjiang, is a red-hot political issue. By referencing it, even as satire, The Simpsons ran directly into one of Beijing's most defensive pressure points. The ban sparked international headlines. Many saw it as part of a growing trend of censorship in Hong Kong, especially when it came to Western entertainment that touched on politically sensitive issues. What's striking is how a show built on parody found its joke erased not because it mocked Springfield, but because it brushed against China's human rights controversies. Pajama Creep. Darkwing Duck's Deal with the Devil. When people talk about controversial kids' cartoons, Darkwing Duck isn't usually the first name that comes to mind. But one particular episode proved that even a lighthearted superhero parody could land itself in hot water. Darkwing Duck came out in 1991 and was Disney's attempt to mix slapstick comedy with pulpy superhero adventures. It was really freaking good, okay? The show followed Drake Mallard, a bumbling but well-meaning hero who balanced crime fighting with raising his adopted daughter Gosalyn. With its catchphrase, "Let's get dangerous," and endless spoofs of comic book tropes, it quickly became a fan favorite of the Disney afternoon lineup. But the hot spells stood out for the wrong reasons. In it, Gosalyn sneaks off to a sorcery school run by none other than Magica Dispel. Magica promises to teach her magic, but the lesson takes a darker turn when Gosalyn is tricked into trading Darkwing's soul to the devil in exchange for power. Darkwing eventually defeats Magica and retrieves his soul, but the episode's imagery and literal depictions of hellfire demons and deals with the devil did not sit well with Disney executives. The concern was straightforward. Mixing children's comedy with references to hell and Satan struck too close to religious controversy. By the mid-1990s, parents were increasingly vocal about what kids saw on TV, and Disney feared that the episode might also get caught in the crossfire, so they chose to quietly pull hot spells from reruns. Unlike other episodes, it was never released on VHS or DVD, and it remains absent from official Disney Plus collections. However, fans never forget. Many who caught it on its original broadcast recalled the story vividly, and its disappearance only added to its mystery. For some, the ban feels exaggerated because the show ultimately ended with good winning over evil. For others, it makes hot spells a legendary lost chapter and proof that Darkwing Duck may not have been as harmless as we all assumed. Now, you want some real controversy? Let's talk about this Gizmo Duck character. What's he all about? Blathering blatherskite indeed. Level 4. Pessimian No-Go. Pokemon. Few shows have been as globally beloved as Pokémon, yet even this family-friendly series has episodes that never reached international audiences. One striking example comes from the Sun and Moon arc, an installment titled Ash and Passimian, A Touchdown of Friendship, which aired in Japan in March 2018 but was quietly held back from Western release. On the surface, the episode had a light-hearted story. Ash encounters a troop of Passimians struggling to hold their ground against a rival group. To gain their trust, he learns their ways and even joins in a ball-passing game meant to showcase teamwork and leadership. However, the moment that drew concern was when Ash disguised himself as a Passimian, complete with face and body markings that were seen as racially insensitive by some. While the scene was intended to show Ash blending in with the Pokémon, its resemblance to blackface could raise immediate red flags in Western markets, especially due to the long history of offensive comparisons between black people and monkeys. Because of this, the episode was never dubbed in English and became the only Sun and Moon episode excluded from Western circulation. It was the first main series episode since the early 2000s to be skipped entirely. Some episodes have been previously redesigned for cultural sensitivity, but in this case, the localizers chose the simpler option of removing the entire episode. Some argue that the decision was right because even if the intent was innocent, the visual resemblance was too close to ignore in a global market. Others felt disappointed, pointing out that Ash's actions were clearly meant as a gesture of empathy, not mockery. A few even questioned why edits were not made to keep the story alive, while most were just unbothered and shrugged it off as just another episode in a 1,000+ episode series. Beach episode, Big Backlash, Pokémon. Before Team Rocket could blast off again, it was this beachside beauty contest that left censors rushing to do damage control. On paper, Beauty and the Beach sounded lighthearted, but it quickly turned into one of the most controversial moments in the franchise's long history. The story begins during Ash, Misty, and Brock's adventures in Porta Vista, a sunny resort town. Their vacation takes a wrong turn when they accidentally crash a boat, leaving them in debt. To fix the situation, the gang helps run a beachfront restaurant and, in typical Pokémon style, Team Rocket start working at a rival restaurant next door. Things escalate into a local competition, leading to the ultimate highlight of the episode, a beauty contest that features both human contestants and Pokémon. At first, it plays like a harmless comedy. Misty reluctantly enters after being teased about her appearance, while Jessie from Team Rocket joins with her usual dramatic style. But the real controversy comes from James, who shows up in the pageant wearing an inflatable suit that gives him exaggerated features. He mocks Misty and even boasts that he could look prettier than any girl. While the gag was intended to be satirical, it raised eyebrows for its suggestive undertones and the way it handled gender-based humor. This scene, along with a few other moments that were considered too indecent for a children's show at the time, led to Beauty and the Beach being pulled from broadcast outside Japan. In the US, it was skipped entirely during the original run. Years later, a heavily edited version aired on Kids WB, but it cut down or completely removed the most controversial parts. Online discussions pointed out that the episode isn't graphic, it's more that the implications combined with the fact that Pokémon was aimed at kids that made it problematic. Because of this, Beauty and the Beach has become an interesting case study in how cultural differences, intended humor, and broadcast standards can collide. Elephant Issues, Tiny Toons Adventures. Kids' cartoons are meant to offer gentle life lessons, not brutal tragedies wrapped in real-world problems. Unfortunately, the Tiny Toons may have misunderstood the point. Tiny Toons Adventures was a popular 90s cartoon about younger versions of Looney Tunes characters training at Acme Luniversity. Usually it was full of silly gags and fun adventures, but in Season 2's episode, Elephant Issues, the show tried something very different. The episode is made up of 3 short stories. The first, Why Dizzy Can't Read, shows Dizzy Devil struggling in school because he watches too much TV. The second, Clyde and Prejudice, introduces a robot student who's treated unfairly until he proves his worth and makes friends. Both are lighthearted lessons about learning and kindness. The third story, though, became one of the most infamous cartoons in TV history. It was called One Beer and follows Buster Bunny, Plucky Duck, and Hampton after they find a single bottle of beer. They drink it as a dare and immediately act silly and out of control. Things quickly get darker. They steal a police car, drive recklessly, and ultimately crash off a cliff. For many kids watching, that was the end of their three favorite characters floating to heaven as angels, warning viewers not to drink. But the real ending was different. After the car crash, the camera pulls back to reveal that Buster, Plucky, and Hampton are actually in a studio, and the whole thing was just pretend acting. In the closing scene, they walk out together and explain that they hope their skit made the point about the dangers of alcohol. The message was clear: drinking is dangerous, but should it have been included in a kids' show? Lessons like this are shown in a gentler way and are usually aimed at slightly older audiences who can understand them better. For preschoolers and grade school viewers, the sudden car crash and talk of alcohol felt shockingly out of place. Because of this, One Beer was rarely replayed on TV. Some thought it was banned, but it actually aired once and later appeared only on DVDs and reruns in certain countries. Some fans still debate that the episode confused them as kids, while others admit it stuck with them more than any regular don't drink ad. His Mouse Friday, Tom and Jerry. As harmless as they seem, Tom and Jerry have had their fair share of controversial moments. In His Mouse Friday, Tom and Jerry end up on a desert island. Jerry is stranded and must survive on his own. He meets island natives who are depicted in offensive ways. The episode uses visual jokes and exaggerations to make fun of their culture. Tom, as usual, keeps chasing Jerry, but much of the humor is overshadowed by the outdated and insensitive portrayal of the islanders. For example, Jerry puts on blackface to resemble the islanders and performs a tribal dance parodying Robinson Crusoe. From the 19th century onward, society has struggled with racism, and black people have been fighting it ever since. Showing such content, even under the guise of historical context, does not sit well with modern audiences. Because of this, the episode has been removed from many DVD collections and is often skipped on TV. Modern viewers and experts generally agree that it's not suitable for kids. This led to its effective ban in several places. The decision reflects the effort to keep children's cartoons free from any harmful stereotypes while still respecting the history of the series. Some viewers believe the episode should be seen as a product of its time and understood in historical context. At the same time, others agree that children should not be subjected to racial or cultural cliches regardless of the historical background. Level 5. Holy Page Hot Water, Fireman Sam. Fireman Sam has put out plenty of fires, but in 2016, the show accidentally started one of its own. The series follows a friendly firefighter and his crew in the small Welsh town of Pontypandy, teaching kids about safety, teamwork, and helping others. Since it first aired in 1987, Fireman Sam has built a reputation as a wholesome, reliable cartoon for preschoolers. That's why both parents and fans were shocked when one short scene from the episode Trouble in Pontypandy caused global outrage. The episode itself seemed ordinary. In one scene, the clumsy firefighter Elvis is carrying a tray of hot drinks. He trips, falls, and the cups go flying. Papers scatter across the room in chaos. For a split second, viewers could clearly see that one of those papers contained text from the Quran, verses from Surah Al-Mulk. The page was then accidentally stepped on as part of the joke. What might have been a blink and you'll miss it detail quickly turned into a scandal. Many viewers, especially Muslims, saw the scene as deeply disrespectful. How could a holy text end up being used as a background prop in a children's cartoon? Channel 5, the UK broadcaster, received over 1,000 complaints. News outlets picked up the story and debates erupted online. The show's producers, Hit Entertainment, quickly apologized. They explained that the page was never meant to appear in the episode. An animator had scanned random documents for filler text, and one of those scans turned out to be from the Quran. Hit called it an unfortunate incident and promised it was not intentional. They immediately pulled the episode from circulation, announced they would cut ties with the studio responsible, and reviewed all future content more carefully. For fans, the controversy was almost unbelievable. Before airing an episode on TV, it's usually viewed once or twice for any errors, so how did no one notice the Arabic verses? The doubts grew louder when reports resurfaced that the show's creator, David Jones, had previously faced accusations of Islamophobia. In 2012, David was briefly detained at an airport for insulting a woman in a veil. So, was it really an accident or a hateful act, brushed off as a mistake when people spoke out? Banned in China, South Park versus the Firewall. Imagine a world where even cartoons have to answer government censors or risk vanishing entirely. This is exactly the absurd, darkly humorous reality explored in South Park's 2019 episode, Banned in China. South Park is a cartoon known for its bold, funny take on serious topics. Since its debut in 1997, the show has made fun of politics, pop culture, and everyday life. The show follows four boys, Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny, living in the small Colorado town of South Park. It's a good mix of silly humor and clever commentary about the world. In Banned in China, the series turns its focus toward Hollywood's complex relationship with China, highlighting how the entertainment industry often self-centers to maintain access to the lucrative Chinese market. The episode follows two main storylines. First, Stan forms a death metal band called Crimson Dawn, which gains attention from a film producer eager to make a biopic. However, the producers pressure the band to remove all content that might offend Chinese authorities. This forces Stan to bear the tension between artistic integrity and commercial gain. The subplot follows Randy Marsh, who attempts to expand his drug business, Integrity Farms, into China. Randy is immediately arrested and imprisoned. In the prison, he witnesses China's harsh justice system, including the execution of a character resembling Winnie the Pooh. This was a satirical nod to the real-life Chinese censorship of the character due to comparisons with President Xi Jinping. Randy ultimately takes Pooh's life to secure a deal with the government. Again, a direct hit at the authorities. The episode's satirical bite did not go unnoticed. China banned South Park entirely and removed all episodes from streaming platforms like Youku. They also censored all discussions about the show on social media, including Weibo. In response, Parker and Stone issued a mock apology, satirically praising Chinese censorship while highlighting the absurdity of prioritizing profit over freedom of expression. And I'm sure China understood after they said, "We're sorry. Sorry." The episode sparked international discussion about the influence of Chinese censorship on global media. Many praised South Park for its unfiltered critique of both political oppression and Hollywood's willingness to compromise artistic integrity. The episode Fox wouldn't air. Family Guy. Imagine being put in a situation where you have to make a very hard choice for someone else's baby. That's the kind of story Family Guy explores in the controversial episode Partial Terms of Endearment. Family Guy is an animated show created by Seth MacFarlane in 1999. It follows the Griffins, Peter, Lois, and their kids Meg, Chris, and Stewie, living in the quirky town of Quahog. The series is famous for its wild humor, pop culture jokes, and occasional tackling of serious topics in a funny, exaggerated way. In this episode, Lois agrees to help her friend Naomi by being a surrogate, carrying a baby for her. Tragically, Naomi and her husband die unexpectedly, leaving Lois and Peter to decide whether to continue caring for the baby or to stop the pregnancy. The episode shows Lois struggling with her feelings and Peter and the rest of the family weighing in, highlighting the tough choices people sometimes face in life. Because of the sensitive subject matter, the episode was banned from airing on Fox and also excluded from Adult Swim in the US. Fans could only watch it later when it was released on DVD. The ban sparked discussion among viewers about whether television shows should be allowed to explore difficult topics, even in a humorous way. Fan reactions were mixed but mostly positive. Some praised the episode for handling a challenging situation with humor and storytelling skills, calling it one of the best of Season 8. Others felt the jokes were too dark or the topic was too sensitive for TV. Reddit discussions show that many people thought the episode was actually tame for Family Guy, while most respected the show for daring to address a tough subject. Level 6. Don't play with fire. Beavis and Butthead. Beavis and Butthead is an animated series following two teenage boys whose clueless antics and unique outlook on life create chaotic and often hilarious situations. The show mixes crude humor with sharp social satire and shows teen misbehavior in exaggerated ways. However, one such episode somehow influenced a real-world tragedy. In Comedians, Beavis and Butthead attend a comedy club after seeing a successful comedian on TV. They get inspired, and Beavis attempts to juggle a flaming newspaper on stage. As a matter of fact, he isn't that good, so he ends up lighting the whole club on fire. The episode humorously portrays the boys' misguided attempts at entertainment while highlighting the long-running joke about their obsession with fire. The episode aired, everyone enjoyed it, and then forgot about it. But a month later, a tragic incident happened in Moraine, Ohio. A 5-year-old boy, Austin Mesner, set fire to his family's mobile home with a cigarette lighter. And unfortunately, the accident took the life of his 2-year-old sister. His mother claimed he was inspired by Beavis and Butthead, though the neighbors later stated the family did not have cable and could not have watched the show. By then, the incident had already drawn national attention and sparked debate over the media's influence on children. In response, MTV removed all references to fire from future episodes and moved the series to a later time slot. They also pulled Comedians from reruns, effectively locking it away in the vault. BET versus the Boondocks, the Hunger Strike, and the Uncle Ruckus reality show. We've talked about the Boondocks becoming the center of a controversy, but that controversy was nothing compared to this one. The Hunger Strike went far beyond mere boldness and was shushed before it could reach more people. In this episode, Huey Freeman launches a hunger strike and campaign against BET, short for Black Entertainment Television. He argues that the network promotes harmful stereotypes and exploits its audience. The satire goes even further when BET executives are shown openly plotting to damage the black community for profit. This biting critique may have been in line with the show's style, but it was seen by many as crossing the line. The presence of Uncle Ruckus made the episode even more unsettling. He's a recurring character known for his extreme self-hate and offensive beliefs, and his role here only added to the tension. Because of its direct mockery of a real network and its executives, the hunger strike was never broadcast in the United States. BET itself strongly opposed the episode, leading to Adult Swim pulling it before airing. It only saw release years later in some international broadcasts and DVD sets, and became an intriguing piece of lost media for curious fans. The censorship highlighted a rare moment where satire collided head-on with the corporate big guns and reminded audiences that even a show like the Boondocks had some limits. However, that didn't stop fans from sharing their take on it. Online discussions ranked The Hunger Strike among the darkest or most daring episodes of the Boondocks, not because of any graphic imagery, but because it dared to call out an entire institution in such blunt terms. Ironically, the censorship only made it more famous. By trying to hide it, networks ended up giving it an almost legendary status. Level 7. Man's Best Friend, The Ren and Stimpy Show. The Ren and Stimpy Show premiered in the early 90s and is known for pushing boundaries with gross-out humor, surreal stories, and exaggerated slapstick. However, Man's Best Friend may have gone further than Nickelodeon was willing to allow. The story follows Ren and Stimpy meeting George Liquor, a strict, overbearing man who adopts them as his pets. What starts as quirky training quickly turns uncomfortable, with George forcing discipline and loyalty in unsettling ways. And it gets even darker when Ren repeatedly strikes George with an oar in a fit of anger. The scene is long, violent, and far more graphic than young audiences were used to seeing on a children's cartoon. To add to the unease, there were scenes of Stimpy smoking dog treats shaped like cigars, which gave the episode an even more mature edge. Nickelodeon executives immediately recognized that the tone crossed a line. While the show had always walked a fine balance between silly and shocking, this episode leaned too heavily into unsettling realism and aggressive behavior. As a result, Man's Best Friend was pulled before its scheduled air date in 1992. It didn't appear on television during the show's original run, making it one of the most notorious lost episodes for years. But its fallout went even further. Soon after, Nickelodeon terminated its contract with creator John Kricfalusi and his studio Spumco. Later in an interview, John claimed that this one episode was the sole reason for his firing. However, behind the scenes, tensions between him and Nickelodeon had already been growing due to his perfectionism, which often caused production delays and missed deadlines. And frankly, what we've learned about his behavior since then hasn't been great. In reality, Man's Best Friend was simply the breaking point that ended an already fragile partnership. Eventually, fans discovered the episode through bootlegs, later releases, and reruns on more adult-oriented platforms. Some praise it as bold and uncompromising, while for many, it went too far, especially because its target audience is kids and families. Gun safety gone wrong. Gargoyles. Most cartoons teach lessons with a smile, a joke, or a catchy song. But this one chose blood, silence, and guilt, and that's why no one ever forgot it. Gargoyles was a TV series known for mixing fantasy, action, and mature themes, and it was awesome. It was already a different kind of Disney series in the 1990s. When the episode Deadly Force aired, it stood out for its raw emotional weight and the way it addressed gun safety in a way children's television rarely dared to. The story begins with Broadway, one of the Gargoyle clan, watching an old western. He's fascinated by the larger-than-life cowboys and later stumbles upon Detective Elisa Mazza's service weapon. Curiosity gets the best of him and he starts playing with it, only for the gun to discharge. The result is horrifying. Eliza is severely injured in her own home. The episode does not shy away from the reality of the accident, showing her bleeding and collapsing as Broadway flees in fear after leaving her at the hospital. Goliath is unaware of what really happened and blames a local crime boss, which adds even more weight to the tragedy. However, a guilt-stricken Broadway later confesses to the accident. When Eliza wakes up at the hospital, she forgives him, saying she should have been careful with the gun. Because of its intensity and the disturbing details, Deadly Force quickly became one of the most controversial episodes in the series. Some later broadcasts edited the scene, zooming in on Eliza's face to avoid showing the wound, while others skipped the episode altogether. Even Disney itself thought it was too much for the audience and restricted its airing for years. And ironically enough, the very episode that was meant to teach one of the clearest lessons about gun responsibility ended up being censored or sidelined. Fans, however, remember it as one of the show's bravest and most powerful stories. The sight of blood didn't affect them much. It was the reminder that such accidents happen far too often in real life. And that's it for today's video. Hope you liked it, and if you're still hungry for toon mysteries, go check out this iceberg on the most disturbing cartoon villains.